I swear I could feel her before I even saw her, like the room changed temperature the moment she walked in. Not warmer, exactly, but more aware. Like the air waited for her to decide what to do with it. Her name was Lena. Mid-40s, though she wore it like a secret she didn't care to share. Not in the way of someone trying to look young, more like someone who already knew she didn't need to. I was 24. Old enough to pretend I wasn't intimidated. Young enough that she saw through the pretending. We met in the quiet corridor outside the small art studio where I worked evenings. She had signed up for a 6-week pottery workshop, the kind people take when they're either rebuilding or trying not to fall apart. She stood there that first night, reading the class list, chewing lightly on her bottom lip, like the names meant something. I don't know why I spoke first. I usually don't. First time? I asked. She didn't look up right away. When she did, her eyes were slow and careful, like she was studying the question, not me. Does it show? She asked, smiling with the corner of her mouth, not the whole thing. Only a little, I said. But everyone pretends they aren't nervous their first class. She laughed, quiet, throaty, almost surprised. The kind of laugh someone makes when they haven't done it in a while. That was the first moment. The second was when our hands accidentally touched, reaching for the same sponge at the rinsing station. Not a dramatic touch. Just skin against skin. Warm. Brief. But neither of us pulled away immediately. She glanced down at our hands, then up into my face with a look that lasted one fraction of a second too long. Not flirting. Just noticing. But the kind of noticing that echoes. You're younger than I expected, she said. Not insulting. More like she was stating a fact she didn't know what to do with yet. And you're... I started but stopped. I didn't know the word. Beautiful felt too shallow. Intimidating was too defensive. I settled on. You're different than I expected. Her smile turned softer. Something shifted in her shoulders, like she let something unclench. We spent the class near each other. Not on purpose, not really. But every time someone else took a tool or moved to another table, we ended up working close again. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of the pottery wheels and the instructor explaining how clay remembers the hands that shape it. I watched Lena's fingers, slow and precise, the way she cupped the clay, guided it, corrected its collapse without frustration. She had patience. But also something restless, behind the calm. At one point, her sleeve slipped up, revealing the inside of her wrist, pale, delicate, like a place kept hidden from the sun. I don't know why I couldn't look away. She noticed. And she didn't hide it. After class, we walked to the exit together. Not side by side, slightly angled toward each other, like there was gravity involved. When we reached the door, she paused with her hand on the frame. The hallway was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet you feel in your chest. You're too young to handle me, she said lightly. Like a joke. But her voice didn't match the words. Before I could respond, she stepped closer, close enough that I could see the faint line at the corner of her mouth, the hint of lavender lotion, the warmth of her breath. But then, the studio door swung open behind us. We both turned. Someone else walked out, chatting loudly, breaking the moment clean in half. Lena exhaled. Almost a sigh. Then she looked at me again, this time, with something unspoken and unfinished. See you next week, she murmured. And she walked away. But her warmth stayed. The next week she came early. Not by accident. I knew that from the way she stood in the studio alone, coat still on, fingertips trailing lightly across the shelves of clay like she needed something steady to hold on to. She looked different. Hair pulled back, no makeup except maybe something small around the eyes. Softer. Or maybe just tired. You're early, I said. So are you, she replied, which wasn't true. I always arrived early. But she said it like she wanted the moment to feel mutual. There was no one else around. The hum of the studio heater filled the space. The windows were fogged over from the cold outside, blurring the street into a watercolor. She took off her coat slowly, folding it over her arm, before placing it on the bench beside me. Her hand brushed mine again, same as the first night, but this time, there was no surprise. Just a quiet, deliberate pause. I asked, "Long day?" She nodded once, her eyes lowering. "I finalized the papers today." I didn't say anything. I just waited. "Divorce," she added barely above a whisper. The word didn't fall heavy. It slid out, tired and familiar, like something she'd held for too long. "I'm sorry," I said. She didn't look at me, just stared at her hands. "Don't be. It was over long before the documents noticed." There was no bitterness. Just something that looked like a bruise, old, muted, healing but still tender. She sat at the wheel beside mine. Close again. Closer than needed. We worked quietly, the instructor still not there, the room still belonging to only us. The clay was cool and damp, grounding. But every time her elbow brushed mine, I felt something warm rise up my spine. I tried not to look at her. I tried to focus on my hands. But I kept noticing the small things, how her hairline softened when she leaned forward, how she tucked a stray curl behind her ear with the back of her wrist, how she exhaled through her nose when something frustrated her. She noticed me noticing. "Careful," she murmured, eyes on the clay. "If you look at someone like that, they'll think you want them." I swallowed. "Maybe I do." She froze, not dramatically, just barely. Her fingers paused mid-shape. Her breathing held. Then she turned her head toward me, slowly. "You don't know me," she said. But her voice didn't have distance in it. Just caution. Or fear. "I'd like to," I answered. Her gaze flicked to the door, as if expecting someone to walk in again. No one did. Her hand moved, hesitant, uncertain, and she reached to guide my wrist on the clay wheel. Her palm pressed against the back of my hand, warm, firm, steady. Our fingers almost laced, but not quite. We shaped the clay together, slow, synchronized, breath matching breath. The door opened behind us. Not the instructor. Just the cold air from the hallway. Still, she didn't pull her hand away. Not right away. Only after a heartbeat. Maybe two. But enough. Enough to say everything without a single word. The next class was crowded. The studio felt smaller than usual, all the wheels taken, everyone talking louder than they needed to. I kept my focus down, on the clay spinning between my hands, but I felt her before she even sat beside me. Not touching. Just close enough that the heat of her body reached my shoulder. She didn't speak at first. She didn't have to. "Rough day?" I said quietly. Her exhale was almost a laugh. "You have no idea." Our wheels spun side by side, the instructor giving a demonstration none of us were really paying attention to. I stole a glance. She had her jaw set, eyes focused too intensely on her clay. Something unresolved lived there, behind the steady hands. There was a smudge of clay on her cheek. Light, soft, near her temple. I didn't tell her. I don't know why. A woman from class, Katie, always loud, walked over to talk to her. The moment shattered like glass. Lena straightened, shoulders pulled back, face smoothing into something neutral. Professional. Safe. Katie leaned in close, whispering something that made Lena nod too quickly. I pretended not to hear, but I did. "You look happy," Katie said. Happy. Like it was a surprise. When Katie finally walked away, Lena let her shoulders drop. She didn't look at me. "You told her?" I asked. "No." A pause. "Not that there's anything to tell." The clay between her fingers wobbled, collapsing in on itself. She cursed softly under her breath. I reached over to help steady her wrist, but she flinched. Not because of me. Because of what the moment meant. "I can't be someone's new beginning," she murmured. The wheel kept spinning. The silence kept spinning with it. I spoke carefully, quietly. "I didn't ask you to be." She looked at me then, really looked. Her eyes were tired in the way that comes from trying not to feel something. The instructor called break. People moved. Water ran. Chairs scraped. The studio grew noisy. We didn't move. She finally stood and walked to the sink. I followed, not close enough to touch, but close enough to be part of the gravity she didn't push away. Her hands trembled as she washed the clay off. Not visibly, just the smallest shiver in her fingertips. I reached out, slowly, giving her enough time to pull away if she wanted. She didn't. My hand brushed hers under the warm running water. Our fingers slid together, soft and unsure. She looked up at me, lips slightly parted like she was about to say something she'd regret. But then, the studio door opened. A sudden gust of cold. Someone laughed too loudly. Her hand pulled away. She stepped back, breathing shallow, eyes darting anywhere but me. I shouldn't, she whispered. You already are, I whispered back. She closed her eyes. Just once. A slow, pained blink. When she opened them, she stepped closer, not touching, but nearly. So close I could feel her breath warm against my cheek. The world around us kept moving, loud and careless, but it felt distant. Her voice was barely a breath. Don't make this harder. But she didn't step away. Not even an inch. It happened on a Tuesday night, one of those evenings where the sky hangs heavy and the air feels thick enough to touch. The class had ended early, everyone gone, lights half dimmed, and she stayed behind, pretending to clean up brushes that were already clean. I stayed too. Not pretending anything. We didn't speak for a while. The silence wasn't uncomfortable. It felt suspended. Like if either of us moved too suddenly, the moment would break. She was standing at the far table, the faint hum of the heater filling the room. Her back was to me, hair loose tonight, falling past her shoulders. I watched the slow rise and fall of her breathing. The kind of breathing you do when you're trying not to feel something. I walked to her. Not fast. She didn't turn. But I knew she knew. You've been avoiding me, I said quietly. She closed her eyes just once. I thought it would make it easier. Has it? I asked. Her shoulders tensed. Not an answer. I stepped closer, close enough to see the tiny flecks of clay dust still clinging to her hair, to her jawline. Close enough to catch the faint scent of her lotion, lavender and something warmer, like cedar under it. You're staring, she murmured. I can't help it, I said. She let out a breath, slow, uneven, and set down the brush. Her hands rested flat on the table, as though she needed to anchor herself. She didn't turn around to look at me. So I spoke to the back of her neck, where a loose strand of hair clung to her skin. You don't have to be afraid of what this is. She gave a quiet laugh. Not amused, something closer to broken. You think I'm afraid of you? She asked. No, I said. I think you're afraid of how you feel with me. That made her turn. Her eyes met mine, tired, warm, fighting something she already knew she was losing. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. I reached up, slow enough she could stop me at any point, and brushed a bit of clay from her cheek. My fingers grazed her skin, soft, warm, and she inhaled sharply. Not a gasp. Just a breath she hadn't meant to show. Her hand came up, hesitant, searching, and rested lightly on my chest. Not pushing me away. Just there. Her thumb brushed once, like she was testing whether I was real. You don't understand, she whispered. People will talk. They'll think I don't care, I said. She looked at me then, not guarded, not careful, not calculating. Just open. For the first time. I do, she said. I care. I've been the rumor before. The mistake. The one someone grows out of. I shook my head, stepped closer, close enough our bodies aligned without touching. That's not what this is for me. The room felt too small. The air too full. Her fingers curled lightly into the fabric of my shirt, holding me there, or holding herself there. She lifted her chin just slightly. Close. So close our lips hovered a breath apart. Tell me to stop, she whispered. I didn't. But before either of us could close that last impossible inch, the studio lights flicked off automatically. The room dropped into shadows. We froze. Not moving. Not breathing. Suspended right on the edge. The next class, she didn't come. Her wheel sat empty, stool tucked in neatly, like no one had ever touched it. The room felt wrong without her in it. Too bright. Too loud. Too full of people who didn't know they were interrupting something sacred. I tried to focus on the clay, but my hands were restless. I checked the door too often. Every time it opened, my pulse jumped. She didn't walk in. After class, when the studio cleared out, I found myself standing in the hallway, not thinking, just moving. Her name was already in my phone. We'd exchanged numbers at some point, casually, for class updates, nothing more. Nothing more. That was the lie we'd agreed on. I texted, "Are you okay?" No answer. The second text typed itself before I could stop it. "I miss you." I didn't send that one. I put on my coat and walked out into the cold evening, the streetlights buzzing faintly overhead. The air smelled like rain, sharp, metallic, waiting to fall. I wasn't planning to go to her house. Not really. My feet just knew where to go. Her porch light was on. Not bright, low, warm, like she wanted to be seen but not approached. I hesitated at her door. My hand hovered. I almost turned back. But then it opened. She was there. Hair undone, sweater sleeves pulled over her hands. Not polished. Not guarded. Just Lena. She didn't look surprised to see me. She just looked tired. "You shouldn't be here," she said softly. "Then tell me to leave," I replied. She didn't. Instead, she stepped back to let me in. I followed her to the kitchen. The lights were dim. A half-finished cup of tea sat on the counter, steam long gone. The house felt lived in but quiet, like it had been waiting for something. Or someone. She leaned back against the counter, arms crossed, not defensive, more like she was holding herself together. "My ex called today," she said. "He heard something. From someone." My pulse tightened. What did he hear? That I've been close to someone. Younger. She didn't look at me. "He said it figures I'd look for validation wherever I could get it. That I've always been that way." She laughed once. It was the saddest sound I'd ever heard. I stepped closer. "Is that what you think this is?" She didn't answer. Her silence was worse than words. So I moved slowly, carefully, lifting my hand to her face. I brushed a tear she hadn't let fall yet. Her breath itched, barely, and she leaned into the touch like she'd been holding herself upright for too long. "You think I'm here because you need validation?" I whispered. Her eyes finally met mine, wet, angry, vulnerable, open. "I think I'm scared of needing anything." There it was. The truth. I stepped closer, closing the space between us until her knees lightly touched mine. She didn't move away. "You can need me," I said. Not a demand. A promise. Her hands trembled as they reached for my shirt, not pulling me in, not pushing me back. Just resting there, like she needed something solid. Her voice was quiet. Barely breath. "Then don't leave." The rain started outside. And neither of us moved. The rain didn't let up. It grew heavier, steady, a curtain of sound around the house. The kind of rain that makes the world feel small, like everything outside has stopped. Inside, it was just us. She stood so close I could feel the warmth of her through her sweater. Her hand still held the fabric of my shirt, gentle, uncertain, but not letting go. Her eyes were searching mine, and there was no guardedness left. No careful distance. Just a quiet question: are we really doing this? I didn't answer with words. I stepped closer, slowly, giving her time to stop me if she needed to. Our bodies aligned by degrees. The space between us grew thin. Her breath caught, not loud, just a soft intake she couldn't hide. She lifted her chin, just enough that our foreheads nearly touched. The smallest movement. But it felt like falling. "I don't want to ruin your life," she whispered. You're not, I said. And I meant it. The words were steady, low, a promise more than reassurance. You're changing it. Her hands tightened in my shirt. Not pulling me closer. Holding me there. Afraid, maybe, that if she let go, the moment would break and scatter. She leaned forward, but stopped. Just short of a kiss. The breath between us trembled. This feels, she began, but the sentence dissolved. She shook her head slightly, frustrated by language failing her. So I spoke for both of us. Right, I said. Her eyes fluttered shut. Not romantic, relieved. Like she had been bracing for the wrong answer. I lifted my hand, slow enough that she could stop me. I brushed her hair back behind her ear, gentle, fingertips barely grazing her skin. She inhaled like the touch reached somewhere deeper than her body. Her shoulders softened. Her chest rose. She leaned into the contact. Her voice came out without armor. I don't remember the last time someone touched me like that. The confession sat between us, fragile, real. I rested my forehead lightly against hers. Then let me. Her breath trembled against my mouth. Not kissing. Not yet. Just close enough to feel the possibility. She pulled back half an inch, not to separate, but to look at me. Really look. And in that moment, I understood her fully. She wasn't afraid of desire. She wasn't afraid of me. She was afraid of hope. So I spoke with the calm she needed. We're not a mistake. Her lips parted. Not in surprise. In surrender. Slowly, slowly, she leaned in. Our noses brushed. Our lips hovered. The world narrowed to the heat of her breath on mine, the soft tremor in her hand, the promise hanging in the air. But she stopped. Right there. Her eyes opened, inches from mine. Then stay, she whispered. No hesitation. No apology. No fear in the words anymore. I nodded once. I'm not going anywhere. And in that shared breath, in that fragile closeness, we finally understood each other, not as replacements, not as escapes, not as rumors or cautionary tales, but as two people who found something they didn't expect. And chose it. The rain eased by morning. Not suddenly, just slowly, like it had been holding something heavy and finally set it down. Light moved through the blinds in thin, quiet lines. The house smelled like tea and damp air. The world felt softer. We sat on her small living room couch, legs pulled up, facing each other. Not touching at first. Just close. Her hair was still a little messy from sleep, and she didn't seem in any hurry to fix it. I liked that. I liked seeing her without the careful edges. She held her mug with both hands, warming them. I watched the steam rise. She watched me watching. Neither of us needed to fill the silence. It was the kind of silence you earn. I thought I was done, she said finally. Her voice was quiet, but not unsure. Done with risking anything. With feeling anything that could hurt. I nodded. I knew what she was really saying. I didn't push. I wasn't looking for you, I said. I just found you. Her lips curved, not a smile, exactly. But close. You make it sound like an accident. Maybe it was, I said. But it still feels right. She looked down at her hands. The mug trembled slightly as she set it on the coffee table. Not from weakness, just from something finally loosening inside her. I'm still scared, she admitted. I know. And I'm not going to pretend the world won't talk. I know. She looked up. Her eyes were clearer than they had been in weeks of studio nights and unfinished sentences. But I also know I don't want to step away. Her voice was steady. Not from this. Not from you. I exhaled, something warm settling in my chest. I reached out first, slow, gentle, and took her hand. Her fingers curled into mine like they had always been meant to. Not needy. Not claiming. Just choosing. She shifted closer on the couch. Not all at once. Just enough that our knees touched. A small, soft contact, steady and sure. I brushed my thumb along the back of her hand, and her shoulders relaxed in a way I had never seen before, like she had been holding herself upright for decades. "We don't have to rush," I said. "We won't." She leaned her head lightly against my shoulder. "But we don't have to run any more either." Outside, the rain slowed to a gentle patter. The house felt full now, not of tension, but of presence. Of quiet certainty. I lifted my free hand and brushed a strand of hair back from her face. She closed her eyes. Not to hide. Just to feel. I pressed a soft kiss to her forehead. She exhaled, long, steady, peaceful. There was no dramatic music. No grand declaration. Just two people breathing in the same quiet morning. Together. Choosing each other. Not because it was easy, but because it was true. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?